there, welcome to another edition of Yoga with Ann. Thanks for joining me today. I know it's been a minute. I have decided that what's best for me right now is to record a class for a YouTube channel when I have the time, when I have the energy, when there's something I want to share. So all of those things need to happen. You know, life gets in the way, life is busy. So know that there's many classes for you to choose from, and when I have available time and energy, I will record something. So thanks for being here. Today we are practicing yoga for the desk jockey. What is a desk jockey? It's someone who sits at a desk. So most of us have jobs where we sit at a desk. I know that's not the same for everyone, but we are in a sitting culture where we don't have great posture, where we quote unquote are lazy. I have terrible posture, I have kyphosis. I would rather sit on the couch and lounge than, be standing upright, frankly. So because of that, we have, weak shoulders, we have weak hips. A lot of our body is weak and tight. So we're gonna do poses to help with that today. Number one rule, when you yoga with me or anybody else, honor your body. So make sure that it feels safe, it feels okay. You're welcome to modify. I give other options. So pay attention to your body and honor that. Even if you think this is an easy pose and you should be able to do it, today maybe there's some reason why your body won't do it. When I teach, I regularly talk about, I'm gonna do the pose this way because this is how my body needs it today. Or as I age, as I get injured, I have to change how I practice yoga. So every day is a different day, and honor that. I like to use yoga props. I know that not everyone has props, so there are things in your home that you can use. So the number one thing, a yoga blanket. If you don't have a yoga blanket, a bath towel or a beach towel will work just fine. So if you have nothing else, at least have a bath towel or a beach towel, some sort of blanket that can fold and roll nicely. So that could be a towel or a blanket, but like those big old squishy blankets, that's not gonna work for what we need. If you have a yoga strap, that'd be like the number two thing that I would recommend. If you don't have a yoga strap, you can use a necktie, you can use the belt from a bathrobe, you can use a scarf. You can also just use your hands. It won't be quite as effective, but it's still doable. So you decide with that what you can use as a strap. And then last, if you have yoga blocks, if you have one, totally fine. If you have two, even better. I'm sitting on my other yoga block. But if you don't have blocks, we can work around the blocks. You could also use a stool. We're gonna do some lunges where you might wanna use a stool, or even be near a wall or a piece of furniture that you could have your hands on. That's acceptable as well. So let's begin our practice. So we're gonna come into, we're first gonna do a little bit of breath and meditation. So I like to use my folded blanket as a pillow. So if you're somebody who, when you lie back, your shoulders are up and your head's back, it can be good to have something under your head. This could be your towel or blanket, or it could also be maybe like a small pillow from your bed or your couch, like one of the decorative pillows. So if you're using something different, a necktie for the strap, I'm gonna call it a strap, right? So when I say strap, you use your necktie. When I say blanket, you use your towel. So whatever you have, that's gonna be your prop that you're gonna use when we are using those. So I'm gonna come into constructive rest with my knees bent and my feet about hip distance apart. Just realized I have my glasses on my head. It's not gonna work well. So I like to adjust the blanket so that just my head, the base of my skull is on it, and my neck is basically free. And then hip distance apart. It's a little hard to tell here lying down, but basically if you kind of poke around at your hips, you'll feel bony protrusions, and that's hip distance. And so you basically want to have your thighs, your knees, your shins, your feet, your ankles, your feet, all in alignment. You could go wider if that's more comfortable for you, right? So we're just gonna be here for a few moments. Arms can be wherever's comfortable. You can have your hands on your belly, feeling the movement of your breath. Eyes can be closed or open. And we're just gonna take a few moments here to notice our breath. So maybe as you inhale, you say to yourself, inhale. And as you exhale, you say to yourself, exhale. Bring your attention back to your breath. If it would feel okay, you can take a fuller, deeper inhale. And as you release your exhale, perhaps you let out a sigh. Make your way over to one side. So just kind of roll over and then pressing your hands into the mat to push up. So see if you can bring your head up last. You don't want your head leading to come up, especially as we get more, certain poses we're gonna get relaxed, kind of in the beginning and then at the end. So we're gonna come into a supported heart opener, which is one of my favorite poses, and I think it's a pose we should do every day. I've tried to challenge myself, here's the 3 poses I think we should do. All of those are in the practice today, and variations are available as well. And then it just doesn't happen. But heart opener, we're not gonna quite do it for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is ideal. If you can do it longer, better. But 1 or 2 minutes is totally fine. So there's 2 ways that we can practice this depending on the props and how your body's feeling today. You can use your blanket. So this is where that blanket or towel that folds or rolls nicely is really helpful. So I'm opening my blanket up to here. I know not everyone has the same kind of blanket, so you just do your best, right? Coming into basically this position. And then I'm gonna roll my blanket. So for some of us, just rolling it part way is plenty. I'm not sure today. I'm gonna go all the way. If you don't go all the way, you have a little bit of padding under your head. So remember, there's another way. If you have blocks, there's another way to do this. And if you have one block, we can still do this. So I wanna make sure that the lower tips of my shoulder blades, so basically the bra line, are kind of right by the armpits. That's where you wanna lie over your support. So I'm gonna come back to constructive rest. I'm gonna kind of hold my head as I make sure I'm in that right spot. So sometimes you gotta wiggle around a little bit. And then I'm gonna lower my head down. So your arms should easily come above the roll. It doesn't mean they have to stay there. Your hands can come on your chest or your belly, out in a T. And my head is a little bit back, so I could adjust it or put something under it. I'm gonna show you how to set up with the blocks, and that's how I'm gonna stay. That does not mean you have to do it that way. So if you only have one block, use your blanket or perhaps that pillow maybe you grabbed from your bed or couch, and you can use that to support your head. This block's gonna support the lower tips of the shoulder blades. So I have 2 blocks. So this is a good place to start. Bottom block at the lowest height, medium block at the medium height. It could also go all the way up. Coming back to that constructive rest, lowering on down, lower tips of the shoulder blades on the lower edge of the block. So there's basically nothing under your neck, and then that second block or pillow or blanket supports your head. So you can still do a heart opener and your head can be higher than your chest and your heart. And then you see if you can allow those shoulders to relax. So in our lives, almost everything we do is forward. So this is the opposite. We're bringing our bodies into a gentle extension, a heart opener. Now this can be quite vulnerable physically and emotionally as you're open here. So if it's a lot, you could put your hands on your heart. You could take a blanket. It doesn't have to be a particular blanket. It could be any blanket, a pillow, and put it on your chest. And if that's just too much, then you come out and you can just come back into constructive rest. If you're in your heart opener, we're allowing the support to lift and lengthen and open. your attention back to your breath. It's comfortable, a couple of rounds of deeper inhales and exhales. Feel the effects of your breath with that support underneath you. It's going to be a little weird, but it's okay, especially if you're on blocks, to roll over to your side. So take your time. It might feel pretty intense, rolling, excuse me, rolling on over. And just roll off the blocks onto your mat and let your head relax. And then to press up, let your head hang as you press your hands and use your arms to come up, and then the head comes up last. And just take a moment. Such a great pose. One of the poses I think that we should do every day. You know, other people may feel differently about other poses, but that's my opinion. All right, so we're gonna set our blocks aside for now. We will use them later if you have them. And then I'm gonna take my blanket and use it as a pillow again. And then I'm gonna make sure that I have my strap nearby. And we'll come back to constructive rest with your knees bent and your feet on your mat. Just take a moment to notice and feel. So we started lying in constructive rest. We did our heart opener, and now we're back here. So I can feel the difference in my body, right? More of my shoulder blades are connected to the mat, my upper back, my mid back, and frankly, a lot more of my lower back. I have pretty pronounced arch, pretty pronounced lordosis. I have lordosis and kyphosis. We all have it, but I have it a little more extreme. So I have the hunchback and then the sway back. So a pose like that feels really good in my body. For most of us it will. There's always the exception, and it's okay if it doesn't for some reason. So let's extend our legs long on our mat. And then we're gonna widen our feet so that your right foot is by the right corner and your left foot by the left corner. And then slide your right leg toward the left, keeping the leg straight. So it's bringing us into a little bit of a side bend, side stretch. This might be plenty and you stay here. I'm gonna start to take my shoulders also over to the left. So I'm shimmying them over, my torso stays on the mat. So I'm really coming into the side bend. This is banana pose. You can stay right here. I'm gonna bring my arms up overhead. So having my arms straight doesn't feel good for me. So I usually grasp my wrists, my forearms, even my elbows, depending on how my body is feeling today. You could keep your arms down by your sides. One more thing you can add, you can pick your right foot up and cross it over your left. And then we just allow our breath to breathe. Allow that right side to be nice and long and the left side to shorten. Come back to what feels like neutral for you. Legs could be wide or back closer together, arms however you'd like. And just take a moment between the two sides. And then let's widen our feet and legs once again. And then slide the left leg toward the right, keeping it nice and long. That might be plenty. Maybe you start to shimmy your shoulders over to the right as well. Maybe you cross left leg over right or not, and maybe the arms come up and over. So traditionally arms are up by the ears, but that doesn't feel good for me. So I just kind of bend my elbows and grab onto whatever feels okay. Right now I'm a little closer to my wrists. Now we just breathe. Return to center. Back That could be with your legs out long or coming back to constructive rest. If you're not in constructive rest, let's bend our knees, bring your feet to your mat. And this time we're going to use the strap, so get your strap. If you're not going to use your strap, you can have your hands behind your thigh. And hug your right knee into your chest. So I'm going to use my strap and put it over my foot, so you can always fling it if you need to. You could bring your foot to your other thigh to get that strap on. And then once the strap's in place, you're going to reach and extend your leg up. So we're working towards straight. It doesn't have to be straight, but if you're using a strap, you can always move your leg away to get your leg straight. If you're using your hands, you might not be able to straighten it. I have short little arms, so if you have long arms, you probably have more ability here. So I'm thinking about pressing and reaching through my heel and the ball of my foot, spreading your toes. And I kind of wrap the strap in my hand so that I'm not holding on for dear life. Supta Padangusthasana 1, reclined hand to big toe pose. Okay, I'm going to take both ends of the strap into my right hand. I'm going to imagine that my whole leg is like screwed in to my socket, and I'm going to turn all the way out. So this is external rotation. So I'm not just turning my foot, I can't even just turn my foot. Turning all the way, so the thigh turns, the knee turns, the shin turns, the foot turns. And then I'm going to kind of bring my elbow down so I've got a nice anchor. I'm going to open my right leg to the right. And then my left knee is still bent, and I'm going to open my left knee to the left. So this keeps you pretty even in your sacrum, your hips, and then reaching and lengthening out through that right leg. Again, you could do this with your hand. It's a lot more work, but it's doable. Notice your breath. Come back upright. Switch the strap into your left hand. And then we're going to do what's called internal rotation. So we did external rotation, and then we're going to turn so that your leg, your knee, your toes are turning toward the midline, toward your body, toward the left. And then we're going to do a crisscross. So this left knee is bent, and I'm going to cross my right leg to the left and my left knee to the right. So doing like a crisscross. You don't go very far, and you'll probably feel some intense sensation in this area. So you can always back off. Make your way back upright. Release your strap, bend your knee. You can keep your strap because we do the second side. Keep it nearby. You can come to constructive rest, or you can extend your legs out long, relax just for a moment to notice the two sides. If this is too much for your low back or anywhere else, then stay in constructive rest. Let's bend our knees again, feet to your mat. Hug your left knee into your chest, bring your hands at the back of your thigh, or get your strap and put it over your foot and reach and extend. So I mentioned that hip socket, like reach and extend from that hip socket. And then hold on to your strap the best way for you. So this is the second pose I think we should do every day, Supta Padangusthasana. I mean, all three parts are really great, but just this part is a lot for you, really good for you. So this is a possibility, right? All right, let's take the ends of the strap into our left hand. Let's do that external rotation, turning from your hip socket, and then open your left leg. I've got my anchor, my elbow down on the mat, left leg to the left, right knee to the right. So you want to keep that even. You don't want like one falling over more than the other. So they're keeping you even in your sacrum, which if you have issues there, this can be really helpful. This is a modified version, and now we're in Supta Padangusthasana 2. This is a modified version of it that I really like. Come back up. Ends of the strap into the right hand. We'll do that internal rotation, and then let's do our crisscross. Left leg to the right, right knee to the left. Ooh, this side is much more intense. So we're still reaching, extending through that leg, pressing through the foot. So sometimes the foot will kind of tweak here. So you want to imagine that you're standing on that foot so it's nice and even. Pressing through your heel and the ball of your foot. Spread your toes. Come back up. Release your strap, bend your knee, constructive rest. Set the strap down. We might use it for the next thing, so keep it nearby. You can stay in constructive rest, or you can come back to a mini shavasana with your legs out long. Checking in, noticing any shifts or changes. With the 3 poses that I think we should do every day, it could be 5 minutes, right? Heart opener, we did about 2 minutes, a little longer than 2 minutes. I'm not sure how long we did the Supta Padangusthasana series, but you could do each leg for a minute. And then the third pose we'll do in a little bit, downward facing dog, which I can't hold that for a minute. So you could do it for 20 seconds, take a rest, and do it again. And you have a 5-minute little yoga practice there. All right, let's come back to constructive rest. Let's pick our right foot up. Let's extend the leg and do that external rotation once again, and then bend your knee and bring your ankle your ankle to your knee or your thigh. So we're energetically moving the right knee away from the right shoulder. This might be plenty and you stay here. For me, my arms are short for this pose, so I use a strap. So if you don't have a strap, maybe you stay here if this is too intense to pick your left foot up. So I'm gonna pick my left foot up. I'm going to put my strap around my left thigh. You can put your hands there. And then I'm going to lie my head back down, and I'm flexing through both of my feet. You could also put the strap on your left foot. I don't feel as much stretch when I do that. You also have the option to bring your left foot up toward the ceiling. And if I do that, I don't need my strap anymore. Energetically moving the right knee away and the left knee closer to the left shoulder. Remember, you can always stay in that first version. Just work on energetically moving the right knee away while the left foot stays on the mat. Figure 4. I'm going to thread the needle. Let's bring our foot back to the mat. Uncross, constructive rest. Pick left foot up, reach up toward the ceiling or the sky. Maybe you're practicing outside. Externally rotate, bend your knee, set on down. So this side is really tight for me. You might, for a lot of us, that's the case, but could be the reverse. So I can use my left hand on my thigh. We don't want to use it on the knee to help move the knee and thigh away. Whew. All right, do you want to pick up your right foot? You can always pick it up and change your mind. I'm adding my strap. I'm gonna lie back down, energetically move the left knee away from the left shoulder and try to bring the right knee closer to the right shoulder. I'm gonna extend my leg and give myself a little more accessibility here. Totally up to you if you want to do that or not. Bring your right foot back to the mat, left foot to the mat, constructive rest. Set our strap aside, and then step your feet as wide as your mat. We're gonna do some windshield wipering, so let's move dynamically. So as you exhale, your knees will move to one side. When you inhale, your knees will come up, and when you exhale, shift to the other side. Hands and arms can be wherever you'd like, back and forth. I teach this pose dynamically and static, so sometimes we hold it. I had us go to the right first, so the next time you go to the right, that'll be your final round. After you complete to the left, come back to constructive rest. And we're gonna make our way over to one side. You could roll on over, you could hug your knees in, maybe do a little rocking. And then come on over. So allow your head and neck to be heavy. Press yourself up. Coming on up. All right, so we are gonna come into tabletop. I like to use padding under my knees. That's totally optional, depending on what your flooring is. If you're on carpet, it makes it a lot easier. So tabletop. And I'm gonna have my blocks ready. So if you don't have blocks, I'm gonna have them up at the top of my mat. If you don't have blocks, you could be near a wall or a piece of furniture, a little stool, a coffee table. And if you don't have any of those things available or don't wanna use them, then I'll show you how to do it without blocks. So let's come on to all fours in our tabletop. So we start with our wrists. Just gonna move that out of the way so you can see wrists below shoulders, knees below hips. And for a lot of us, that's kind of jamming in the wrist, right? So you could always put your hands a little bit forward. You could turn your fingers out, maybe in. I can't imagine in is awesome, but maybe for you it is. So find the spot that works best for you. And then we're gonna bring our tailbone under. We're gonna tuck our tail and round our back. Head and neck follow. And then you're gonna tip your tail up, arch your back, open your heart, slightly lift your head and neck. So you don't wanna dump your head and neck up and down. You want it to follow as you come into, right now we're in the cat, and this is flexion in your spine. And then as we tilt into the cow, we're coming into extension. This is a back bend. Couple more rounds. Finishing on up. So once you're complete with that final round, come back to tabletop. So something else we want to keep in mind, it's really easy to shrug in the shoulders. So we're going to press it to our hands. That's going to help lift us out of our shoulders. and be strong and open in our chest and clavicles and widen the shoulder blades as well. We're going to come into what I call C stretch. So let's turn to look over our right shoulder, like you're trying to look at your feet, whether you see them or not. And then you're going to wag your tail toward your shoulder. So you're making your left side long and your right side short. Bring your body in the shape of a C. And then let's go the other way. So look over your left shoulder, try and look at your toes, and then wag your tail towards your left shoulder. And come back. And let's do that a couple more times. All right, so you can continue with that or add to it. So I'm going to look over my right shoulder, but I'm going to pick my feet up and I'm going to swing my feet to the right. So that's going to make the stretch a little bit bigger. And then I'll come back to center, keeping my feet up, and I'll go to the left. And then you just keep going. So you can stay with cat-cow. You can do the initial C stretch, keeping your feet on the mat, or work through this C stretch. Side bend, side stretch. One side gets longer, one side gets shorter. Wherever you are, the next time you go to the right, final round. Back to constructive rest. You might need to sit back for a moment, give your wrists a break. All right, awesome. Okay, so we are going to come into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So I'm going to give you some options because not everybody loves dog. It might be really intense on your wrists or your shoulders. So you have an option to do wall dog. So if you have a wall available, you could do this on a coffee table as well. So I have my hands about shoulder height and I'm going to step back. My blanket's going to be in the way. But this is a possibility because I'm really using the strength in my hands and arms, right? And then I'm not putting a lot of pressure on my wrists and shoulders. So that's a possibility. You could stay in your tabletop. You could stay with cat-cow. You could come into what's called puppy pose, where your hands come a little bit forward and you shift your hips back, like you're coming into child's pose, but you're not. And then, you might work a little bit more. Maybe your head rests. That could be your downward dog. You could come into child's pose where you sit back on your heels. It's really difficult for me to have my arms stretch out for a long period of time. It feels okay right now. So, that's the idea. We want that part to be happening, the lengthening, but if you need to make an adjustment, you do. And then you also have the option to come into down dog. So, from a tabletop, I'm going to step my hands one handprint forward. I'm going to curl my toes under, lift my knees up, and I'm going to shift my butt, hip, and thighs away from my hands. My stance is a little short, so I'm going to walk back. So I'm bringing my body into a nice long inverted V. Start with bending your knees and then lifting your hips higher. So if you're in a room, imagine that you could set your butt right in that spot between where the wall and the ceiling meet. So if you feel really rounded or forward, then definitely bend your knees. You're pressing your heels down toward the mat. It doesn't mean that they're reaching. Your fingers are spread wide and your arms are strong. And you just allow your head to relax. So I'm basically looking at my toes right now. So I'm not dropping my head and I'm not keeping it lifted up. It's fairly neutral. Let's bring our knees down. This is where I'm going to use the blocks. We're going to come into do various poses with using our lunges, our low lunges. So I'm going to get my blocks and I'm going to step my right foot forward. You could use a wall, a piece of furniture, or even have your hands on your thigh. Blocks have 3 heights, so we want to make sure that our knee is right above our ankle. So we don't want to be here with our lunge. So if you want to do a deeper lunge, then you back that back knee up. Toes can be, or the foot can be flat on the mat, or you can have your toes curled under, totally up to you. So here we are in a low lunge. So especially this back leg, we want to think about really lengthening because those are the muscles that get really tight from sitting. All right, we're going to come into a pose called lizard. So I'm going to bring my right hand and block on the inside of my right foot and heel toe out to the side. So my toes are a little bit off the mat, so I'm at an angle so I can get deeper into the psoas muscle, a deep-seated hip flexor. My knee is still right over my ankle. You're totally fine to stay nice and upright. This can also be done with hands on thigh. Some people like to walk their hands a little forward. You could come down onto your forearms as long as you're even. So I really can't come onto my forearms without being kind of all, that's an official term. So, having your hands on your blocks and even just walking a little forward is plenty. I feel plenty of sensation here. And if you feel plenty of sensation here, then stay right there. I'm going to keep my left hand on my thigh, bring my right hand to, let me say that all again. Left hand stays on my block, right hand to my thigh. So if you're not using blocks, then your left hand comes to your hip and your right hand comes to your thigh. And I'm going to press my right hand into my thigh to turn my chest to come into dragon pose. A little bit of a twist here. Your knee is still right above your ankle. We're going to turn back briefly into our lizard, briefly into our lunge, and then step that right foot and knee back. And we'll step the left foot and knee forward. So coming into our low lunge, making sure your knee, so you could be back a little bit, but we're really like in the safest spot and the strongest spot when our bones are stacked, when our knee is right above our heel or ankle. Low lunge. You want to deepen it, that back knee can move back. You can really think about that back thigh stretching and lengthening. Let's bring the left hand and block on the inside of your foot. Heel toe out to the side. Remember, you can be upright here. Coming into your lounging lizard. So maybe you walk your hands a little lower, a little more forward, or maybe you stay right where you are. Make sure that your knee is still right above your heel and ankle. All right, if you lowered or came forward or a little bit of both, let's come back to having our hands under our shoulders. My right hand's gonna stay at my block. My left hand's gonna come to my thigh. I'm gonna press, I'm gonna turn away from you to come into a twist. Let's come back. Briefly into the lizard, into the lunge, back to a tabletop, and back to your version of downward facing dog, whatever that's gonna be. I'm gonna spread my fingers wide, press my wrists in the mat, curl my toes under, lift my knees, lift my butt, hip, and thighs, and press my thighs away from my hands to come into Adho Mukha Svanasana. This is the third pose that I think would be beneficial for our bodies to do every day. I mean, there's plenty of yoga poses that would be beneficial, right? But with limited time and maximum benefits, the heart opener, Supta Padangusthasana with the strap, and downward dog are the three poses I think we should practice every day. Let's bring our knees down. And we're gonna come up to standing. We're gonna do a few standing poses. So I'm gonna move my blanket out of the way. The first pose we're gonna do is Warrior Two, Virabhadrasana 2, and we don't need blocks for that. But the other poses, we may use blocks. So you can have them ready at one of the short edges of your mat. And then we'll come to stand up. So you could come back into a dog and step your feet forward. You could come from a tabletop and bring one foot forward. I'm actually gonna use my blocks. The other foot forward. And then come up to standing in Tadasana. So Tadasana, we stand with our feet about hip distance apart. I mentioned the bony protrusions earlier, so find those, and if you could draw a line down your leg, the line will go right through the middle of your ankle. That's hip distance apart. Check in, that may or may not be okay, maybe go a little wider. We're not here very long, but it is the base of our standing poses. And then just allow your arms to hang by your sides. Let's step our feet wide. And we're gonna set up going toward the right. So right foot and leg rotates 90 degrees. Make sure it goes that whole way. If you don't turn it all the way when you bend your knee, it's not gonna go in a safe spot. Back heel kicks back about an inch, toes slightly in. As you bend your front knee, you're gonna aim toward the second and third toe. Don't go past it. Turn your heart toward the long edge of your mat. Arms are typically shoulder height. That's typical Warrior Two, but your hands could be at your hips or your heart. Typically your gaze is over your front middle finger, but check in. Do you want to look forward? Do you want to look behind? Back leg strong and straight. Bent, front knee bent. Virabhadrasana 2. Let's bring our arms down, straighten your front leg, bring your feet to parallel. Let's go to the left foot and leg 90 degrees, back heel kicks back, toes slightly in. Bend your front knee. So if you don't turn that back foot and you're more the toes facing that direction, it's really hard to bend your knee and keep it right over the ankle. So that turns your hips slightly askew to keep you in good alignment. So we again don't want our knee farther forward. It's okay if it's back, but again, if we can stack that knee right above the ankle, maximum support, strong bones, strong muscles. So if we stack our bones, our muscles don't have to work as hard. And we breathe. Let's bring our arms down, straighten your front leg, bring your feet to parallel, step your feet back together, coming back briefly into your mountain pose. I'm gonna get a sip of water. How we doing? Hopefully you said awesome or amazing or I'm so happy, I don't know. And if you didn't, that's okay too. Okay, so we're gonna come to one of the short edges of our mat. Likely use your blocks. So if you know that it's difficult, to be basically here and a little lower, then let's use a wall or a piece of furniture that's a little higher up, a chair. So coming from our mountain pose, let's step our right foot back. So we're gonna have our back heel on the mat. Toes are very well turned in. Front leg is gonna be straight this time. We're gonna turn our heart to face forward. So I'm a hyperextender, so I push too far back. So for me, what I have to do is really press my foot and imagine I'm gonna lift my kneecap up toward my thigh. And then that puts a slight bend in my knee. It's not actually a bend, I'm using those muscles. You could teach yourself to do that by having a block there that you're pressing so it can't go all the way back. So it's something to be mindful of, because just bending your knee a little bit, I don't feel like that gives you the strength that you need. So I'm really gonna press my foot, I'm gonna lift my kneecap, I'm gonna tuck my chin, and I'm gonna hinge forward. I'm gonna use my blocks under my shoulders. You could have your hands at your hips, And I'm gonna lengthen from the crown of my head and from out from my tailbone. So I'm pretty long here. And for me, it's totally fine to stay right here. If you know a different way to do this, please do it, but I'm not gonna teach that. So I'm pressing through that front leg, keeping it nice and strong. Imagining that I can move my front hip back and my back hip forward. We're gonna come into a lunge. I typically like to come into a runner's lunge, but that may not be accessible. So I'm gonna show 2 ways to come in lunge. Much more accessible is to come up. So you might already be up. Bend your front knee. Turn your toes so that they're facing forward, and your back heel is off the mat. You could be here. Check in that your knee's not too far forward. I'm gonna come into the runner's lunge, so I'm gonna lower down. I'm gonna step my foot back a little bit more, making sure that my knee is right above my ankle. So my back leg's really strong and really straight, and I'm pressing my back heel down to the mat. Same if you're more upright, but the heel doesn't actually come down. So let's bend our back knee a little bit wherever we are to step forward, and then lift up, back to your mountain pose. All right, one more side. We're gonna step our left foot back, coming into that pyramid pose, almost like we're setting up for warrior one. So I didn't mention this on the first side. If you're really teetery, feel like you don't have balance, you can always shift your front foot more out, right? You can have a wider stance. You just want to make sure that you're not on the same railroad track. You're on separate railroad tracks here. Let's really press through that front foot. Lift that kneecap up toward the hip crease. Hands at our hips to start. Tuck your chin and hinge forward. So we tuck our chin so that we don't lead with our head and neck. And then come down, hands at your hips, hands at your blocks. Hands on another type of support. And think about that left hip moving forward and the right hip moving back to come into Parsvottanasana, your pyramid pose. Nice and long in that spine. Bend that front knee to come into our lunge, whether it's more upright or the runner's lunge. So runner's lunge, you'll likely have to move your foot back. Imagine that I'm in the room with you and I put my hand on the back of your thigh and you press my hand away while your front knee stays right over your ankle. Breathing. All right, we're gonna bring that back foot forward. I'm gonna slightly bend my knee, step forward. I'm gonna bend my knees, kind of sit back, press my hands into my thighs to come up. Back to a mountain pose just for a moment. Wherever you are, feet about hip distance, feel pretty even in your feet. Let's do a shoulder roll, and then just allow your arms to hang down by your sides. Awesome. All right, we're gonna come on down. So, we have 3 more poses to do. We're gonna do a twist, we're gonna do a supported bridge, and we're gonna do Shavasana, final pose. So if you are ready for Shavasana, you just really wanna do Shavasana, go for it. If you wanna do a particular twist, do that, or you can follow along. So if you have a block, have that ready for supported bridge. If you don't have that, we can use our blanket or towel. So I'll just have the block nearby. I'm gonna come into constructive rest with a blanket under my head as a pillow. Or the twist. So I'm gonna step my feet as wide as my mat. So earlier we did that windshield wiper twist dynamic. So this time we're gonna do it static. If you prefer dynamic, then go for it. So feet are as wide as your mat. When you're ready, you start to shift your feet, or excuse me, not your feet, your knees over to the right. And then just let them drop wherever they will. If it's bothersome to like have your right knee hanging, you could support it with a block or a pillow. So you decide. Hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. The next time I inhale, I'm gonna lift my knees up. And as I exhale, I'm gonna move my knees to the left. One side might need support, the other side might not, or both may need support, or not need support. Next time you inhale, bring your knees back up. Fully exhale and come back to constructive rest. We're going to come into our supported bridge. So there's two ways that you can do this. Again, you can skip it. I'm going to show you how to set up with a blanket, and then I'll show you how to set up with a block. We don't have anything under our head when we practice supported bridge because we're going to lift our hips up, and then we don't want to press the back of our neck into anything. So that keeps us safe. So if you have a block and you had your head on a blanket, move that out of the way. All right, so I'm gonna use my folded blanket. Come back to constructive rest. You might bring your feet a little closer to your hips. I'm gonna lift up and I'm gonna slide this blanket under my hips and my low back, and I'm gonna release on down. If you don't feel like it's enough, you could put another blanket or even a pillow. If you happen to have a bolster, you could use a bolster. So that's with the blanket. So I'm gonna lift my hips up and I'm gonna move the blanket out of the way. I just did something I don't normally like people to do, like reaching for something. It's always better to roll on over, get what you need so you don't do anything weird to your body, right? But we're human. All right, so constructive rest, feet a little closer to my hips, press my feet in the mat, lift up, and I'm gonna slide the block. And it's not gonna go under my low back, it's gonna go right below it. So my sit bones, my hips rest on the block. Your sacrum is basically on the block. And then arms are wherever you're comfortable. Another heart opener, an inversion because our heads are below our hearts. And this is also considered a restorative pose. So tell your bodies it's time to relax. We're cooling down, letting go. Time to transition into our final pose of relaxation. If you feel really comfortable here, you're welcome to stay here. Otherwise, press your feet in the mat, lift your hips up, slide your support out of the way, and bring your hips back down. I'm gonna roll over to my side so that I can move my block out of the way and I can get my blanket once again. So in my YouTube classes, our Shavasana is not very long, a couple of minutes. Ideally 5, 10, 15, the longer you can go, the better, right? But the longer you go, the more support you might need. So you might need a rolled blanket under your knees as you lie down. You might want to stay in constructive rest. For this, I'm going to stay in constructive rest. You are welcome to extend your legs out long. You could pause here, run a timer, and how much longer Shavasana if you'd like as well. So I'm going to come back to my constructive rest. Lie down once again, adjust my blanket. Close your eyes, soften your gaze, or keep your eyes open. Just allowing the residue of our practice and your body marinating, your mind, your breath, your heart, and all that we just did. Now is our time to be and not do. Bring your attention back to your breath. Good for the next couple of rounds of breath. Deepen your inhales, really widen your chest and your rib cage. And as you exhale, you let everything soften, perhaps letting out a sigh. Let's make a little movement, fingers and toes, hands and feet, wrists and ankles. You can stretch, hug your knees in. Do a little brief windshield wipering once again. And hug my knees in and do a little rocking. Let's make our way over to one side. So let's do that same thing where we keep our head heavy. So lying on your side for a moment. Press your hands in the mat, use the strength of your arms to press up, lifting your head up last. And then we'll find a comfortable seat. So if sitting cross-legged works for you, you can sit that way. I sit in what's called hero's pose. I don't normally teach it because it's intense for people, and a lot of people can't do it. If it's not okay for your knees and ankles, you know, you could also be kneeling if that's okay. You can sit in a chair. So just make sure that you can sit comfortable. And you can sit tall, so we don't want to be like hunched forward or anything like that. So just taking a moment here. We'll bring our hands together at heart center, so it could be palm to palm, or you could have one hand on your heart and then the other hand on top of that hand. Keep peace in your mind, keep strength in your body, and keep love in your heart. From my heart to yours, I bow to you. Thank you so much for practicing with me. If you have any questions or comments, you can find my information below. Thanks for practicing with me. I have so many classes on my YouTube channel. You're welcome to peruse. If you have requests or questions, please let me know. I don't know when the next time is that I will be recording a class, but I will at some point. And I mentioned, that life and all of that have taken over, and it makes it difficult for me to record YouTube classes. I love providing these, but they take a lot of time, they take a lot of energy, and I want to provide good, safe yoga for people for free. But if you want to do more yoga with me, I do teach Zoom yoga classes, and you can email me and inquire about that. So I just wanted to say, earlier this year, my greyhound Jordy got bit by a cat, and it took 4 months for him to recover. It was quite scary. There was possibility he was it was scary. Like, I think he could have died if I had not pushed the vet's office to take action. They were aware of what had happened. Anyway, I don't want to go into the details, and I'm not blaming anybody, but it was scary. He could have died. He also had a long time of recovery, possible amputation. Anyway, he is okay, he is happy, he is safe, and he is recovered. And anyone who has a cat that wanders around outside, I beg of you to not allow your cat to be outside, to keep your cat safe, to keep other animals safe. I don't want to go on a tirade, and I don't mean to. I just want you to know this is what's been happening in my life and where my energy has been focused on for my dog. And so I've been trying to, whatever energy I have left for myself, which is pretty minimal, to make sure I take care of myself, to not overdo it. I would love to provide more YouTube yoga, but that's where I am right now in my life. So I hope that you appreciate what is there for you, and if you have any questions or whatnot, want to get in touch with me, find my information below. And I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you supporting yourself in your yoga practice. And I hope to practice with you again soon. Thanks for being here.